Hey, this is Pastor Bunjee Garrett, and I want to take this opportunity to present you with another word of encouragement. Now, as we begin to prepare for the new year, we should take some time to just look back and reflect over this year, and I want to consider the cause for why 12 of our cities here in the United States of America have surpassed their annual homicide record here in 2021. That's right. Throughout this year, 12 cities here in our nation have broken their annual homicide record, and with that being the case, well, we should take some time to consider the reason why. Why is this happening in these cities? Well, with this question in mind, we should consider one report presented by Bethany Blankley. Blankley informs us that Philadelphia topped the list, surpassing 500 murders as of November the 26th. What this means is that the city of brotherly love broke last year's numbers with an entire month still left to go in the year. Now, with a population of roughly 1.5 million people, Philadelphia reached 521 homicides by December the 6th, which is actually an increase of 13% from the previous year. Now, if you think that this is bad, well, then it'll shock you to learn that Chicago is still leading the nation in total homicides for the year with 739 by the end of November. Lori Lightfoot, the mayor, she might consider changing the city's motto from city in a garden to city in a cemetery. That might be a little more accurate. Blankley also informs us that the cities that round out the top 5 on this list, well, they're Indianapolis, which has 246 murders, Columbus with 179, Louisville with 175, and Baton Rouge with 137. Not only that, but other cities that belong to the Dirty Dozen, well, this includes Albuquerque with 82 people murdered this year, Tucson with 80 homicides, Portland with 72, Rochester with 71, Toledo with 62, and Austin, Texas with 60. That's right. Crime spiked here in my own hometown of Austin, Texas, shortly after the city council decided to cut the police department budget by $150 million back in May of 2020. 17 months later, well, that's when the Austin Police Department informed us that they could no longer respond in person to non-emergency 911 calls due to staffing shortages. And as we consider the number of officers who are now quitting or retiring from the APD, and as we compare this to the number of new recruits who are currently joining the force, the Austin Police Department projects that it will have at least 235 vacancies by May 2022 and 340 vacancies by May of 2023. We're going the wrong way, people. And with that being the case here, I'm guessing that we're going to continue to watch the homicide rate here in Austin, Texas, continuing to increase. Sadly, this is the same story that we're seeing unfold in all of the cities where homicide records are being broken. As a matter of fact, according to Blankley's reports, the city council in Philadelphia voted back in June of 2020 to slash police department funding by $33 million. 17 months later, well, the city reported the highest number of people murdered since 1990. At the same time, the city council in Rochester voted to cut police department funding by $3.6 million. It also cut the incoming Rochester police class by 50%. And within no time at all, the city of Rochester broke its 30-year-old homicide record. As for Chicago's Mayor Lori Lightfoot, she publicly stated that she's opposed to defunding the police, and yet 400 police officer positions were quietly cut during 2020. And since then, homicide rates have continued to increase. Now, as we consider this trend, it should be noted that ABC News published an analysis of the data, which suggests that there's no clear answer to explain the city's record-breaking murder totals. And yet, this report fails to mention that all of the cities, that are experiencing this record-breaking homicide rate, all of these cities are run by Democrats. They're run by Democrats who are disproportionately receptive to the Marxist message that we have to defund the police. Yeah. And it almost seems to me like, these Democrat-run cities that decided to defund their police departments were simultaneously sending a message that encourages criminals to just cast off all restraint and do whatever they want. Now, with that being the case, we shouldn't be surprised by the warning made by the head of the LA Police Protective League, who recently declared this. He said, "My message to anyone thinking about coming to Los Angeles, especially during the holiday season, is don't. We can't guarantee your safety," he says. "It is really, really out of control." And then in order to illustrate this warning, this union official declares this: "It's like that movie, Purge. You know, instead of 24 hours to commit your crime, these people have 365 days to commit whatever they want." Now, think about that for a moment. This police union official in LA is comparing the City of Angels to the Purge movies, which involves a night when murder is legal. But rather than just one night, like in the Purge series, he's saying that this is happening every night. Wow. The police captain there in Rochester shared a similar sentiment when he declared this, and I quote, "We're extremely frustrated. It has to stop. I mean, it's worse than a war zone around here lately." Now, as we consider this cry for help, it's crucial for us to realize that the progressive policies of those who want to defund the police, they always turn our cities into these war zones, which is basically setting the stage for martial law. And with that being the case, I can't help but to wonder, is this the goal? Is it their goal to bring us to the point of needing the military to come in and take care of this situation? Well, regardless of whether this is about incompetency or conspiracy, what we must understand is that the sinful nature of man has been causing homicide since the day when Cain killed his brother Abel. And knowing that this world is filled with sinful people who are prone to these murderous acts of violence, we would do well to elect leaders who are ready to enforce the laws by punishing evildoers. This was precisely the point that Paul was making in Romans chapter 13. There he declares, "Rulers are not a terror to good works, but to evil. Do you want to be unafraid of the authority? Do what is good, and you will have praise from the same. For he is God's minister to you for good. But if you do evil, be afraid, for he does not bear the sword in vain, for he is God's minister, an avenger to execute wrath on him who practices evil." In other words, the primary point of human government from God's perspective, it's to protect the innocent and to punish the evildoer. And yet there are many leaders here in our country who seem to be, getting this all backwards. They seem to be rewarding criminals while punishing the rest of us who are obeying the laws. And one reason why is because they don't really understand the biblical basis for the authority that they've acquired. It's for this reason that we need Christians who understand God's moral law to be in control of our country. I like the way that President John Quincy Adams put it when he declared this. He says, "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate for the government of any other." In other words, the Constitution of our country is only effective for governing those who embrace the moral law of God. And it's for this reason that criminals must be punished and not rewarded. With that being the case, we shouldn't be surprised to learn that America's first Supreme Court Chief Justice, John Jay, he once said this: "Providence has given to our people the choice of their rulers, and it is the duty as well as the privilege and interest of our Christian nation to select and prefer Christians for their rulers." Christian, listen, if we continue to vote for leaders who fail to bow a knee to the Lord Jesus Christ, well, then we should expect to see more and more leaders who are defunding the police departments while simultaneously rewarding those who break the law. And with that being the case, I encourage every Christian to embrace the encouragement of John Jay. And we do this by selecting and preferring Christians for our leaders, so that our cities might be led by those who are ready to punish evildoers according to the law of God. At the same time, it's also crucial for every Christian to realize that Jesus alone is able to transform criminals into Christians. That's right. Jesus alone is able to transform criminals into Christians who have a desire to follow the moral law of the Lord. I know that this is true, because the Lord Jesus is the one who transformed my life in this very way. It's for this reason that I encourage every Christian to preach the gospel of grace so that we can help criminals to become Christians whose lives are changed by the love of the Lord. With this as the goal, I encourage you, let's ask the Lord for the wisdom that we need so that we can spend the rest of this year fighting the good fight of faith, and all for the glory of God.